Welcome to the podcast. I have to sing this intro. Welcome to the podcast, Tracye Eileen. Okay, I'm singing because our guest today is kicking off our Art Voices Matter segment that we're doing on the podcast. So, welcome, Tracye Eileen. How are
I'm
you, girl?
good. Thank you, Kenya. How are you?
I'm good. It's funny. I bring my friends. Sometimes I will bring strangers, but most of these people we bring are people that I love and that I know and I
Ah.
think are amazing. Yes. And you're
You,
one of
oh, I
them.
think you're amazing too, Kenya.
Ah, I'm really excited to do this because you talk about finding your voice after 40. This child right here, she not only finding her voice, she is throwing across the world and making sure everybody hears it. And so before we really dig into our questions, what I do is I read people's bio for the audience to hear. So I've abbreviated it a bit. So I'm going to read just a segment. You have an amazing bio on your website. So later on, we'll tell people how they can get all the goods. But this is an abbreviated this is an abbreviated version. So let's listen a little bit more of who Tracye is. Chicago singer Tracye Eileen returns to her straight ahead jazz roots on her new music project, You Hit the Spot, an album of standards performed with contemporary edge. This is Eileen's fourth release and third full length album, always exploring new ways to express herself. Each of her previous recordings covered different genres and stylistic approaches. In 2020, she released It's Time, a smooth jazz album featuring originals co-written by Eileen, on which she reflected on her journey of love as she moves through life. The album charted on several major music charts in the US and abroad and was played in 67 countries on over 220 radio stations. That's massive. Eileen has also enjoyed a 6-year residency at Buddy Guy's Legends, the famous Chicago blues and jazz club. And over the years, she has opened for, now get ready, you guys, she has opened for, wait to hear this, many of the biggest names in the music business, such as Babyface, the Stylistics, Mary Wilson, Shantae Moore, After Seven, and Buddy Guy himself. And like I said, I could go on and on. She got much more to say. That is a snapshot. Tracye, tell me, how does it feel to hear that bio read to you?
It feels amazing. And I'm just, if I it feels like, wow, thank you. I feel gratitude. I feel blessed. I feel happy.
Does it feel like, yeah, that's me? Shoot, that's me. Or does it feel
Yeah.
like, who is that chick?
No. At this point, yeah. Me, okay, this is what's happening. I fully embrace, yes. I've learned when good things are happening to you, you tell the universe, thank you, more please, thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I hope you feel like that because, I read it, of course, to myself, but then just reading it out loud, knowing that others are listening, I'm like, oh, I got to emphasize this part because I want people to really hear what this woman and this amazing artist is doing. So, that gives just a really snapshot. But what for you was the point where you really realized I am an artist and I need the world to know that I'm an artist?
Ooh, you know what? Really, well, geez. Probably in 20, well, no, I think, let me see now, wait. I'm gonna say there's like different levels to that question.
Yeah.
I would say maybe initially in 2018 or
Okay.
2017. And I used to work with you, Kenya. You were my entertainment coach.
Yes.
And I had started this journey, I guess it's 11 years ago now. And I at that point I wanted to get on radio. And I was just about to release my second project, my second album. And I was like, well, how do I get on radio? And the first album was about, okay, now that'll prove that I can perform and I can get gigs. Okay, now how do I get on
Mm.
radio? And so I would say in 2017, and then we started working
Mm.
together in 2018, and then I
Yeah.
got on radio.
Yeah, and you got to read. And so the whole reason I am doing this podcast is because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people feel like life after 40
Hmm.
um is this kind of downward or this just road to retirement, and that
No,
this is, right.
no. Unless you want it to be, it doesn't have to be.
Mm,
I mean, I'm all
mm,
about choice. But
mhm,
if
mhm.
you're really honest with yourself, is that really how you want to roll? Really? And you know how that saying, youth is wasted on the young. It doesn't have to be at this point. We have the best health care ever, all the healthy
Mm,
things you need to do. You're gonna grow old. So it's not about whether or not you're gonna live this life. It's like, what is the quality of it gonna be?
absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's why I picked you as I picked you as one of our first artists because I also wanted to make sure people know to get on the tip of your new project because I want to
Yay.
make sure people are listening to it.
Thank
Which we'll
you.
talk. Yeah, you're welcome, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But I also have always really admired you because you are just taking this stage of life, and I don't tell our guest age. I don't do that. I just always say after 40. Of course, if you would like to share, a lot of the guests are saying, "Oh, after 50," so that people really kind of see. But I
You can go after 50.
there we go, after 50, and and I would call the podcast after 50, but I have some guests that are in their 40s, so I want to make sure
Yeah.
we, show that. But I really wanted I invited you because I think you're just a really prime example of one, an artist that people need to hear about, but two, the stage at which of life you are doing this makes it even more to me remarkable and gives so many more people hope to to chase whatever, if whether or not you're an artist, but just to chase that thing, that gift
Hmm.
at this stage of life. So, but I want you to be able to share with the audience, what was artist life, or was there artist life in your 20s and 30s prior to this mid life moving on?
Yeah, but not as a professional.
Mm.
I always sang ever since my first performance was at 8 years old. So that was like, yes, this is it. But and I had planned to. Of course, I went and I got a couple of degrees. I have a mass MBA
Now
and
she's just gonna mumble over that. I just got a couple of degrees. Okay, all right, say that clearly. So-
okay. I have a BS in marketing, Bachelor of Science in Marketing, and a master's in Finance and Marketing,
awesome.
an MBA. And so my plan was to go and work in finance at CBS Records and kind of like get discovered. But somehow I got
Mm.
sidetracked into banking. So, but I, sang in the choir. I was singing weddings and funerals and things like that.
Mm.
And did a gospel tour in Switzerland, and I sang with a couple of gospel groups. But it wasn't until
Mhm.
I got divorced and for the second time.
Mm.
And I said, you know what, I'm
Mm,
going to do what
mhm.
I want to do, what I always wanted to do, and that's to sing. And that's when I made a decision to do that. And and studied and really made the investment. And I told God I will keep going until you tell me to stop.
Mm, mm. And was there something, do you feel was life when you were doing music in that kind of space, maybe in your 20s and
Hmm.
30s,
Hmm.
was it fulfilling enough for you? Or did you feel even then like, okay, wait a minute, this isn't really what I want to do, but I'll wait till later? Or were you like, how did it feel like that was enough at that time? Or did you feel like you wanted more?
Um, you know what? I have come to the thought that for some reason, a lot of times, the things that give us the most joy, we don't feel like we can really make a living at it, or we don't feel like that's
Hmm.
something that we can really do. Or maybe we feel like, oh, I should be getting married, or I should have a job, and I should do this. And this is my thing that I do over here, my passion I do as a hobby or whatever. And so, but just, and somewhere along the way, I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't pursue that as a real career for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think at later in life, and in my 40s, coming to the late 40s, coming to the realization that, shoot, let me just go and do what I want to do. This other stuff ain't working out anyway. And so, not that I soured on love or marriage, because I haven't, but I'm just going to do me. And I think the beautiful thing is, after 40 and on, you tend to have a lot more wisdom. You've lived a life. This is a very treacherous industry, and a lot of people can take advantage of you. So you're a lot smarter. So for me, I think if I had done it
Mm,
younger, I probably would be not in a good place, because I was very impressionable in my 20s.
mm,
And so it's better for
mm.
me to have started later. And you got more resources, and it does take money, child. So so yeah, but once, and it was funny, once I made the decision, at first I started, well, I want to act and I want to do this, I want to do that. And I started working with an acting coach, and they were like, went through learning how to audition and all these things. It's okay. Now, you're probably going to need to sing sometimes in an acting role. So let's kind of first take a look at where we are. And then I started singing. He was like, girl, you are singing. Get out of here. Not an actor. And yes, I find, and isn't that funny, that passion, that thing I've always loved, even then, in that moment of freedom to choose things, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I finally, God was finally like, go and get over there, girl.
But that's so wonderful that you even explored all these sides of yourself. And I think this is, another reason why we're doing the podcast is to help people. You may not know exactly what it is. You may kind of know around the mulberry bush,
Mm-hmm.
but to just sit and not even go around the mulberry bush, I think, that's when we're sitting on our gifts. That's when
Mm-hmm.
we start feeling that stagnation and we get in that survival mode. And so our, whole goal is to thrive. Our whole goal is
Mm-hmm.
to be bigger. So I love that you actually were trying with the acting and then
Girl,
found the voice and said, let me
that
go.
and you're absolutely right. You don't, even if you're not sure what it is, just try stuff that you think that you like, and I feel like you'll land on it. But I think the bigger thing at this point, a lot of times we're very caught up as women, and we all
Mm,
want love, right? We all want love. We want to
mm,
be in love, want a good relationship, and yeah, sure you do.
mm,
But I think pursuing your passion and living in that, and that's part of learning to love yourself.
mm,
And if you can really, really get into that loving yourself thing and create a life for yourself that doesn't depend on anybody else, so that
mhm.
you can be whole. I think that's the path to wholeness, really. And that's
Right.
that gift God gave you. Just lean into it. And you're like, man, this is so awesome. Then you're ready for love, but it's like a cherry on top. It's not the cake. You're the cake.
Right.
You're the
You're
cake.
the cake.
You're the cake. That's the icing. It's a cherry. I could do pound cake with or without. you know, it has to enhance it. I'm gonna need caramel.
Oh,
If it's
she
not that,
never
I'm
needs some
good.
caramel. But you are the cake.
You're the
And I
cake.
love you're the
You're
cake.
the cake.
And I do think our generation, those of us who are, I would say between that 45 to 65 age,
Hmm.
we weren't raised to be the cake. We were kind
Right,
of raised to maybe make the cake,
right, right,
but not
right.
understand that in fact your life and the
Yeah.
goods and the stuff is you. You're the cake.
Yes,
I love that.
absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
that. Well, the next question, since you're kind of talking about, and you kind of slid in there that your second husband, you slid it in there. And then you kind of talked about love a little bit.
Hmm.
Let's maybe shift away from the artist self for a moment, just a
Okay.
moment, and think
Yeah.
about just Tracye, the self. And when you look back at life prior to your 40s, who was that woman?
Mm.
Who was that woman
Man,
personally?
that woman had to go through a lot of growth.
Mm, mhm,
So, I mean, I think in my 20s, because I grew up with addiction, alcoholism in my home. And
mm,
so when you grow up with that, there are a lot of stuff you got to work through, right? You tend to be people pleasing. You don't like confrontation. You always
mhm,
asking somebody their opinion or what they think you should do. And what do you think? What do you think? Like you can't make a decision for yourself, but
mhm,
it's all that, right?
mhm,
So, so I had to go through the growth therapy. I'm a big fan of therapy. Hello, therapy,
Hello.
Al-Anon, all of that, and doing that self work over years, helped me to grow into a place to where I was able to love myself enough and honor myself enough and feel worthy enough that at that point after the second marriage. Because and another thing is I never believed, I don't think God called us to suffer.
Right.
And so if you made a bad choice, give it all you got, and that's my philosophy. But the key is really learning how to love yourself, and that process really finally got me. And it may take a while, years, but that's okay. So yes, I'm totally not the woman that I am today that I was in my 20s by a long shot.
Right. Right. And that's what's so the irony of that is so many people are like, oh, I'm getting older. And I remember in my 20s, I weighed this, or in my 30s, I this. And right. And
I put on context for you, Kenya. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
I'm not crying. It's the context. Go ahead.
Those of you who are not watching Patreon, she's sitting up here beautiful. So you guys need to come over to Patreon so you can see how beautiful Tracye is. But no worries at all. But I think that's that's the thing, is that we forget that okay, maybe you don't wear the same size or whatever, those quite vain external things. There's this ease that can come along with life after 40, 50. And even just here listening to you talk, there's just this ease. There's not this panicky. There's not this, well, I should have. It's no regret. It's this calm. And I think it takes, maturity is a part of it, but it also takes accepting all these different parts of ourselves. And yeah.
And I learned, because I'm a big, as I'm a big fan of coaching. I'm a big fan of therapy. We don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? And so I did dating coaching. I did entertaining coach. I had my therapist girl. I'm like, yes, let's talking about self-help. Self-care is self-help. Helping yourself emotionally, help yourself learn how to do what you're trying to do. Don't be like, oh, I know. If you don't know, you don't know. But one of the things that I learned is that in the thing of self-love, people say, love yourself. What does that mean? I love myself. Do you really? So you really want to have an active way of doing that. So one of the things I learned from my dating coach is that if there's something that you really don't like about yourself, either change it or accept it, one or the other. And if you find that you cannot accept it, change it. If it's your weight, change it. If you're okay with it, accept it. But don't be talking negative to yourself. Talk positive to yourself all the time. Your words have creative power.
Absolutely.
So what you need to change, have the courage to change it. It's okay, whatever it is. And and then the other stuff, just accept. And then that's on the path of self-love as well.
Absolutely. Well, since you are bringing us into the self-love, self-care, that was going to be my next question is, when you hear this term self-care, especially happening now, because it is becoming a bit more trendy. What does, when you hear self-care, what does that mean to Tracye?
Ooh, child. It's Karen. It's not just a bubble bath, girl. It's not. That's nice and that's important. But it is really loving and strengthening all parts of yourself. So that part, I think, starting with actively doing, it's paying your bills. It's like figuring out, how do I get financially stable, and making sacrifices if you have to, so that you can get there. It's about spending time with your family and healing a relationship with your loved ones if you need to do that. You know what I mean? It's about getting some therapy. You know what I mean? And I mean emotional, mental therapy. It's about eating right. I find that a lot of times we use food, and I think, so part of me, this, Kenya, is a lot of times we'll use food to substitute for other things that would bring us fulfillment, real fulfillment. And then it just kind
Yeah.
of, then we gain and then
Yeah.
we just, it goes right on top of each other like that. Whereas if we are beginning to pursue our passions and treat ourselves nicely and take care of all these different things, you don't need that substitute. So I do
Yeah.
feel that
Yeah.
self-care is all of those things. Anything that brings you stress or unhappiness. And let me see how I can address that.
Mm, mm. And no, I agree with that, 3 million%, because we talk a lot about, we're friends. So we talk, off camera, off the record about these things. And you've mentioned therapy a couple
Oh,
times.
girl, yes.
And and no, and I mean, my background is, I have a master's in counseling, so I live by, the rule of getting somebody to help you. If
Right.
that's going to be a coach, if that's going to be a therapist, if that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be,
Mm-hmm.
I think someone objective. I think it should be someone who doesn't really know, who's not in your personal day
Not
to
your
day.
girlfriend.
Right,
It'll be
right,
somebody equipped.
right, 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 right. So, and then you talked about the food and the body and so forth. What do you do? And maybe therapy does this, but what is the
Mhm.
self-care that you do for soul? Like, how
Mm.
does Tracye
Mhm.
feed her soul and nurture
Good.
her spirit?
Well, definitely, you know, having a relationship with God is important. I have a spiritual practice,
Mm,
and
mhm,
so I talk to God every day. I think gratitude is an important practice. Focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. Because
mm,
if you can focus on what you do have, uh, that energy, it's everything is energy. So if you got all this
mhm.
negative, so like this bites, all men are dogs, nothing is good. Guess what? That's what it is. So you're gonna keep creating that for
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
People don't realize that. That's why you're having that experience.
Mm,
Versus, hey, I'm happy, I'm flourishing, I'm beautiful, whatever that is, even if it's not that right now. You remember
right.
that there used to be this book years ago in corporate America called Dress for Success.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
dress to the level that you're trying to get to, not
Mm,
necessarily where you are. The act as if, so act
mhm,
as if, do a vision board,
mhm.
pray and be grateful, and then just and ask God for the things that you want and need. And if you don't know where to begin, say, I don't know where to begin, God. I'm just
Yeah.
say right now, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't
Yep.
know. I just need help. And he will answer. I promise
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. And it's getting in that stillness, it's being willing to let the answer come, and understanding that God is, spirit, God, source, whatever you believe in, is always going to meet you where you are, where
you.
you're
Mm-hmm.
able to hear. And so what may happen for Tracye versus how it happens with me, it might be different, but that's the beauty of it. Whether
Yeah.
you're underneath a rock, you still can be, found underneath the rock. If you have no
Right.
clue what you're doing, if you're someone who's like, I only prayed when it was an emergency, so now I don't even know how to do this. It's like that level of honesty, and
Yeah.
ask for it to be revealed to you.
Yeah.
Ask,
And
yeah.
God is real. I think God is real. And there was a time where I had this book called Who Am I?
Mm,
Because a lot of us are disconnected. We don't even know who we are. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we like, because we haven't
mhm,
really spent that much time with ourselves. So I
mhm.
think a big thing of soul work is you can get a book because they have them. Who am I? You can take pictures and, oh, this is what because I couldn't even say, well, what color do I like? I couldn't even, so just, and then I do, Kenya, I do solo locations. I travel by myself. I go
Mhm.
to the movies by myself. I go to dinner. But you're not by yourself. You're with yourself.
You're with
You're
yourself.
with yourself. You're not by
Yeah.
yourself. You're with yourself. And
Yeah.
then you begin to enjoy yourself. And I think
Yeah.
the connection to yourself is very important. And that's not self-centered.
Mm-mm.
That's self-love
Girl,
and
that's a whole
self-care.
nother podcast. Is really helping people, especially I think, in as Black women, at this age,
Mm-hmm.
getting us off the fence of selfish, of thinking, because we were raised to think that's
Yeah.
selfish. I think a lot of people were conditioned to think, if you're thinking of self first, you're somehow being neglectful otherwise. And so stepping out of that, unlearning that, and redefining this
Mm-hmm.
selffulness is a
Mm-hmm.
critical part of self-care, like a
Yes.
really critical, because you're not even going to do the self-care if you don't believe you deserve this just for
That's very,
you.
yeah. And then if
Yeah.
you think about, you've heard with the plane is going down and the oxygen mask
Mm-hmm.
drop, you
Mm-hmm.
got to put it on yourself
Mm-hmm.
first before you can help the child that may be with you, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I only have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Couple more. Let's flip our heck on to artist.
All right.
What are you most looking forward to
Oh
right
my
now as an
God. I
artist?
am looking for my album just came out on Friday that just passed. And I've
Yeah.
already gotten
And those who, this is
4.
during the time of recording. The album been out by now. By the time people hear this, I just want people to know, like, go get it. It's not, yeah. Anyway, keep going. Yes.
It's called You Hit the Spot. And I just,
Uh-oh.
oh, see, that wasn't a
She
smooth
hit the
move.
spot.
Wow. Okay. Well, thankfully, I'm gonna fix that later. I'm not gonna be smoothly,
Oh
because you know,
God.
as an artist, we have to recover on stage like nothing happened. Nothing just happened.
And those who are listening, you didn't see, but I mean, but yes, you, and she has this beautiful CD that so you got to come to
It is.
Patreon so you can see
Yay.
it.
Okay, there it
It's
is. My new
beautiful.
album. And oh my God. So even as an artist, coming full circle back to straight ahead, this is songbook jazz. I had an
Yes.
amazing band for 10 years. After
Mm,
COVID, a lot of people made life changes, including my music director. And I had to make some decisions too. And I always wanted to do this music. So I put together a new trio, and I had a booking agent, and he was like, yeah, I really think you need to look at that. And it was funny, all these things came together at once that were
mm,
saying the same thing. And
mhm.
in this album, I literally produced, I started in December or January, and it's out. It's like amazing.
It's
And I can't
out.
even tell you all the details behind this a lot. But I'm looking
Yeah,
forward.
but we're gonna make sure they follow you. Yeah, we're gonna tell them in just a moment how they can go get all the, because you've got some great reels on social media, really giving voice to this process and those who worked with you and all the things. So
It's so
we'll share all that.
exciting. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to a internet start touring domestically and internationally. It's been extremely well received. And in the
Yeah.
traditional jazz space, this is tight. They like, who are you
Right.
now? What's your
Right.
stuff sound like?
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
it's been, so I have 4 reviews already, and they're
Awesome.
awesome reviews. I'm so excited. Yeah, so
You
that's the next
should be.
part.
You should be. I listened to the album. I listened to the whole album
Uh-huh.
and I love it. And
Thank
what
you.
was so wonderful? I mean, obviously I'm listening from a musician perspective, but I'm also a fan, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I love to just listen to music. I'm not always listening from just the musician lens. But what's so great about hearing you take these standards, you put so much of Tracye in this.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've seen that written in some of the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
You really, one of the things I think jazz vocalists have to be careful of is to not mock or to not just get caught up in the technicalities of jazz, because jazz is not an easy form to sing, and so it can be easy to kind of overthink at the same time attempt to
Mm-hmm.
be yourself or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, Tracye is just going for it. You sound
Mm-hmm.
sexy, you sound charming, you sound
Oh, thank
so
you.
believable. Like, I want to go see her perform live. I want to see how she moves while she's doing this. So I love it. And I think, anybody who, even if you're not a straight ahead jazz listener, I think that what's also is it's very accessible. And sometimes that can happen. Jazz can become inaccessible, which is why
Mm-hmm.
people will start to kind of
Mm-hmm.
tune out. But I think you
Mm-hmm.
made it very accessible and made you kind of be interested in hearing jazz vocalists again. I
Oh.
say kudos. I say bravo.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Kenya. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was
You're
it
welcome.
just felt, my dad was a jazz musician. He passed away a couple 2, 3 years ago. And he would be so, I feel like he was a part of this project and making it all happen. He'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
what? So
Yeah, no, he absolutely is a part of it. Absolutely is a part of it. Well, I just have two more questions for
Yes.
you.
Okay.
One is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Just self. What advice would you give that
Mhm.
20 something or even 30 something? Maybe let's get into the
Um,
30s.
in
That
the
30
30s,
something. Yeah.
the 30s, I would say you're worthy. I would tell
Mm,
myself you're worthy. You're worthy. That you are
mm,
worthy. I would
mm,
focus on letting myself know I was enough.
mm,
You
mhm,
know, I
mhm,
that I deserved to be have all the things that God promises us all, which is to have a really good, to have joy, peace,
mhm,
you know, and all
mhm.
those things, and that you can have it all, and that I would tell myself to be patient and just trust God. Because
Mm,
one of the things with this artist walk and just pursuing this passion has been a huge faith walk. It's really strengthened my faith because
mhm.
you don't know how it's gonna go down. You're like, okay, God, you just have to trust, you know. So he'll show you this much, and you just gotta trust and do that, and just know that you will be led along the way. And I literally was.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're like, well, what's oh okay, and you just and little by little that joy, that feeling of worth because you are being you, you're becoming you. You know,
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
thing that I found out that was interesting, I look at pictures of myself over 10 to 15 years ago, and I look younger now than I did 10 or
Yep.
15 years ago.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and to
Uh-huh.
me, that's that inside out, you know. So the inner work you do, you know, yeah. You want to, you know, I'm a glam girl. I get into all of that other stuff too now. But I feel that inner work, and a lot of it is just pursuing that passion, whatever it is, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you is I think that's what the Curious Case of Benjamin um what was his name?
Benjamin
Benjamin
Button.
Buttons. Yeah. Yes, yes. And how he was aging backwards. I know that movie meant something else, but I do think that there is this idea when we're stepping more in ourselves and
Mhm.
becoming who it is that we said or who we were hoping to be in this lifetime.
Yes.
I think there's so much grace given with that. And
Hmm.
yeah, you absolutely, I mean, you're not aging though, girl. You definitely not aging. So you're gonna be 106. We're gonna be like, I thought Tracy was 39, so I just think that's awesome. All right, this is the last question before we go to our bonus. And
Okay.
so the question, this is a fun thing, but what is your theme song? Like, it could be that if it's a song that's always been your theme song, or if you're like me, where my mood shifts so much, I have a theme song of the month or of the week. But what would you say right now is a song that just really it just fills you up and is like a theme song?
Well, I don't. Not to overthink it because this song, when you asked that question, popped in my head. So I'm just gonna tell you what that song was.
Okay, all right.
The song that popped into my head was "It's Your Thing." Do what you wanna do.
Da, 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 da.
I can't tell you who to sock it to.
Come on, girl. No, you got to
Let me
finish
now.
now. No, I was
It's
gonna say she
your thing. Do what you wanna do.
Ah,
I can't tell you who to sock it to.
okay. So that's the name of this episode. That's it. It's your thing. You done
It's
that.
your thing. It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love hearing theme songs because we learned so much about that. See, if we had said, "Oh, she's the girl that," da, da, da," then it wouldn't have. But just asking your theme song, boom, there we know. We know
And
the
it's
other. We
funny.
know another energy of Tracy. Well, I think
Yeah,
it's
and
a
I didn't
perfect.
know it was until you asked that question. It was like bam. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is.
That's what
No,
it is.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, please share with our listeners how they, your social media handles as well as your site. We're going to put them in the show notes, but we want to hear it from you. How can
Yes.
people get on the tip and get this music and check you
Oh
out?
my gosh. Well, you can get the music anywhere you like to download your music, iTunes, Amazon, TracyeEileen.com, which is my website, streaming, Spotify, just wherever. It's everywhere.
Awesome.
And if you're in Chicago, every second Sunday, I'm with my trio at Buddy Guys Legends at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8 every second Sunday. And Tracye is the E on the end of Tracye, and Eileen is with an E. And
Awesome.
yeah, so you'll find me. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I don't
love
update
it.
anything else.
I love it.
I can't keep up with it.
I love it. I'm probably, if you're okay with us playing just a snippet in the
Of
episode of
course.
yes, we'll play a snippet of something from the new album. You hit the
Yay.
spot, so you
Okay.
guys can get a taste. But you want to make sure you follow Tracye. So thank you so much. You're gonna stay here. We're gonna do the bonus again. Those who are listening, if you want to hear more from Tracye, like some advice and like some things that maybe she didn't share during this, then just go to patreon.com/finding your voice. You subscribe for just $5 or any of the other tiers, and you'll have access to the video. So you see how beautiful and ageless she is, as well as the bonus content. So that is all for now for this. And stay tuned for the bonus if you are on Patreon.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. That's the pause. I can edit. We're in the bonus.
Okay.
All right. What advice, those people who are artists who are over 40 and who have just slept on their gifts, slept on their passion, how can they what advice would you give them to
Okay,
get
so this is what
themselves
I would say.
going?
First thing I would say, it is never too late. That's the first thing. So don't say it's too late. It's never too late. Never. I don't care what it is. It's never too late. It never is. Never. As long as you're above ground, it's never too late. It's never. You may even if it is certain modifications you may need to make, it's never too late.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I want to say.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think you take the first step. You need to research what it is that you want to do. Google, you can find everything in the world on Google. You know, everything in the world is on Google. And then take a class, learn about it, those would be my, I don't know what, okay, Google. I don't either. Google it, okay? So Google it. And then, when I first started, I went to an ASCAP conference just because I was like, shoot, I'm going to do this. I was doing it as a profession. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I had to figure out how do I make money?
Right.
So I needed to understand the business end of it too.
Absolutely.
And I took a year at Bloom School of Jazz to work on my craft, so I didn't just jump out there. You understand what I'm saying? So Google it, take a class, figure it out, and just start walking there. Ask God to help you, and you will.
Absolutely. I love that you said take the class because and the craft. I think that's probably usually one of the first things I tell any age people who are artists is just go back and just start nurturing the craft, because you're going to start getting really informed.
Yes.
Just by that, like what direction feels comfortable, what doesn't feel, because what might felt good years ago when you were doing it may not feel so good anymore.
Right.
Or you'll forget certain things until you're back in the craft and you're like, oh yeah, that's right.
And just remember, all the people that are great at what they do, they all still work at their craft.
Yes, you
but
gotta
that never
always
stops. It never ends.
It doesn't stop. So you might as well start with that. Yeah. All right. So awesome. Those are excellent. I agree completely. It's never too late.
Never too late.
And get, Google and take a class and get started. My last question for you is, what is something I did not ask you that you wish I would have asked so that people could know about you?
Can you find love again?
I was going to too, but I didn't know. I said, "How does she? Why don't want me to talk about it?" But okay, so would you like to answer that? Can you find love?
Did you have? Oh yeah, but the first thing is so funny. My records, I always think about love, right? And even writing about love, a lot of in my third album, I wrote a lot of love songs, And that's just what I do. I like it. I'm a romantic. And but Whitney Houston sang this song, "The greatest love of all is the love you find in yourself," and that is
Mm,
so true. I can't emphasize that enough. One of the things about pursuing your passion is it's fun. It's fun, even every
fun.
little step of the way, because that's, man, if you like my sister likes digging rocks and she wants to go on a she she wants to do what do you call it? Go on an
Oh,
excavation or
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
right, a rock excavation.
Not right, not my thing, not my thing. But for her, she's like, oh my God. So I
Right.
mean, so just take a class on that. How cool would that be? So I would say that. So I would say the love. And then I think once you really are loving yourself and you creating this life for yourself that you love so much, then you're open to love, right?
Mhm.
And you have to be what you want to attract. And so and then you may want to learn about that too. I did the dating coaching thing, very helpful.
Yeah,
But
you mentioned that. And so do you have, I mean, has love entered? Are you open to
yes,
talk
yes,
about that?
love,
We'll just do
sure.
the last
Yeah.
minute of you just because I
Okay.
think love is a big, big part of our self-care. It
It
is.
is.
It's
So
the
love,
self-love, but
yes,
other
yes,
love.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the funny thing is that I got to the point where I knew what I wanted, and the caliber of man that I began to date would continue to go up as my self worth went up.
Mhm.
And then it was like, I was like, if you weren't bringing it, I never, so it was like 4.5 years where there was no physical intimacy. Okay. Because you
Mm.
get caught up. Women get caught up
Yeah,
in
I
it. Don't act
know.
like I'm
Get
going to
caught
do
up.
it and I'm not going to. No, you don't. Most of us are not built that way. Okay.
Right,
So
right.
you get your own little BOB, battery operated boyfriend, while you're on your journey.
Oh,
And
Lord,
so, yeah, so
Lord.
love does come. But the funny thing for me is when love came, it was a person that I dated 8 years ago, and I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago, and neither is he. But he had everything that I wanted because I knew what I wanted. But except that he was an ex, and I had a rule: no exes, no exes. But
Had to
he
break
had,
that rule.
yeah, well, he had like a 2 year plan and strategy to get me back, which is so whack. And
That's not
yeah,
whack, that's intentional.
it's
As
intense. I mean, it was great. I mean, I was like, really, really,
yeah,
when he told me about it.
yeah.
And yeah, and it's been the most beautiful, wonderful, awesome situation ever, ever.
I
And
am
it's
so
yeah,
excited. Because we talk about love so much. I mean, between music
yeah,
and love and
yes,
music. And I think we're both in these really healthy, um, calm, magical
mm-hmm,
kind of
mm-hmm.
spaces when it comes to relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, again, after 40, after 50, a
Yeah.
lot of people think you're not going to
Oh,
be
you
able to
will.
find that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that we both are at these stages of life, you've been married twice, I've been married once, but still been able to find, these really, fulfilling relationships.
Mm-hmm,
Nothing is perfect. Life, happens. You're growing, you're changing, you're evolving. But to be in
mm-hmm.
these spaces where you can talk with a smile like you are right now, that's huge. It's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. And then you find out the one thing when you get older, it's like, please, it's you either what you want, they know what they want. That's the other thing. With real love, you never have to wonder how does he feel.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
wonder. It's just it's not, yeah, no one's perfect, but it's something I've never experienced before. And if I it's like not even the same. We both say, wow, this is a totally different thing, nothing like where we were 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's amazing. So I guess I have to write another love song. But a lot of these songs that I sang and you hit the spot and was inspired. I think about I'm telling a story when I'm singing a song. So I'm thinking of either a story in my mind or a real thing in my life. And so,
Well, I think the title is quite apropos. You hit the spot.
yeah.
I know. I mean, your life just kind of keeps following your music.
I
So
know, right?
well, this has been amazing. I knew it was going to be. I love you so
Aw,
much.
I love you too.
I'm so proud of you and so
Thank you.
excited. And
Thank you.
you are changing. You're always changing the game in a way that just really, I don't know, it's just so freeing and it's so inspiring. I just really want people to believe in themselves
Yeah.
and not get caught up in this crazy thing called, oh, I'm this age or this time in my life or whatever. So you
The
are
cool thing,
definitely
yeah,
the antithesis of that. You
and
are breaking the barriers for sure.
yeah, but the cool thing is this is the best time because you got sense and you got money. You broke. I don't know about you, but I was broke in my,
She
early
said no
20s.
sense and no money, but now,
Right, right.
yeah, no, it is a really special time I mean, I agree. That's why, doing the podcast, doing the different things, I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
I love it.
let's
And
do it.
I love all the things that you do, Kenya. And I love that you
Ah,
explore all these different talents that you have,
I
and
appreciate
you're just
that.
kind of doing you. And I love that. So,
I'm keep going. We both go keep on going. So
hey.
ah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna be ending this broadcast. I hope everyone on Patreon has enjoyed hearing all about Tracye. And again, we'll have all those notes in the show notes so that you can follow her and listen to her music and like her and all the things. Because as artists, we need the peoples.
We
We need
need
the
you.
peoples.
And I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So that is all. I'm going to end the broadcast. Stay tight for just a moment, Tracye. But for
Okay.
everybody else, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.